Hello, I'm Andrew Thomas Price. Welcome to my channel, and today I'd like to talk to you about this interesting fungus. Known as Daldinia concentrica in Latin, it has several common names, one of which is cramp ball, the other is King Alfred's cake. Now there's an interesting story behind that, and King Alfred, back in the 9th century, was fighting against the Vikings, and after one battle, somehow managed to lose his entire army and spent the entire night wandering aimlessly around the Somerset levels before finding a small cottage with smoke coming out of the chimney. He entered the cottage and was greeted by an old lady sat next to the fire cooking cakes. And he asked if he could sit next to her fire, to which she said, "Yes, of course, just don't let the cakes burn." So he sat down next to the fire and was so preoccupied with having lost his entire army that he forgot about the cakes, and they did indeed burn. She came in, beat him with a broom before finally realizing he was actually the king. And ever since then, these have been known as King Alfred's cakes. Now, Daldinia concentrica is based on the fact that this fungus has these very distinctive concentric circles, a bit like an old vinyl record coming out from the center point. So it's a hard fungus, and when you can find it on a dead ash tree, which is Fructus excelsior in Latin. Sounds very Harry Potter to me. You will often find these growing on a dead or dying ash tree. And if you pull one off, sometimes they feel very light, particularly on the underside of a fallen log. So if you find one that has very little weight to it, it's perfectly dried out. If it's heavy, it's still very moist, so it needs to be dried out. This is a dead and fallen European ash, or Fructus excelsior, and it came down during Storm Dara a few weeks ago. And as you can see, it is covered with Daldinia concentrica, and you've got the very young ones here, these sort of purpley brown ones, and the more mature ones here. And a good tip when you're looking for them for firelighting is to look on the underside of a fallen tree, and that's where you often find the ones that are the most dried out and suitable for burning. This fungus is a very useful fire lighter or fire extender, and it can be used to transport fire from one place to another. So if I have to go from one camp to another several miles away, I could get this smouldering and transport my fire and then blow it into a flame when I got there. It can be used to firelight using several different methods. It can be used to extend the ember of a coal used in friction firelighting methods, or it can even catch a spark from a very small orange spark from a traditional flint and steel like this. So it's far easier to use this using a modern ferrocerium rod or fire steel, which will ignite one of these in no time at all. Now, the one I'm using today is on my Firemate from the Kydex Outpost, and it comes along with a very useful flame blower. I'll be using this in two different ways to light a fire today. The first one is the modern method using the modern ferrocerium rod. The second is using a traditional flint and steel striker light here. So I'm going to break a little bit off for the first one. You can hear it's a very hard fungus, and you can see all those fibers in there when I break it away. So I'll just take a little piece of this now with my ferrocerium rod. Found one that won't sit still. So I'm just going to use the tip just to sort of scrape down towards this now. There we go. You can see just one little spark has got going there. Now what I could do with this is to put it into my tinder bundle and blow it into a flame. So that's what I'll do. I'll put the entire coal into here. Pretty damp. Using a Daldinia concentrica to light a fire with a fire steel is almost too easy, so I thought I'd try and make it a little bit hard for myself and use a traditional flint and steel. So let's see how this does. Now with this technique, you take a high carbon steel and strike it against a piece of natural flint, and that creates a shower of orange sparks. Now these sparks are only about 800 degrees Celsius and they don't last very long, so that's why this technique is a little bit more tricky. But I am very confident that we're going to get it. I'm just going to break up some of the fibres here, get them in. The more surface area we have, the better our chance of getting this to work. Almost had it. I thought I wasn't going to get it, but I think I've got one. It really made me work for that. So I'm going to take this piece of burning Daldinia concentrica, put it into my tinder bundle. Almost there. Put a little bit more of this powder in here just to keep it going. You can see this one's still smouldering as well. Here we go. Remember kids, smoking's bad for you. Some people think fire lighting using primitive methods is easy. Well, under conditions like this, it's not. There's a lot of humidity, it's very damp. Everything has absorbed moisture, and trying to get those little sparks to land and actually start to smolder on the charcoal, on the fungus, it just wouldn't work. So it took me a lot of goes, but I got there in the end. And this is the other half that I broke off. So I used one half to light the fire. The other half is now continuing to smolder. So you can see that smoldering very slowly. So if I had to get from my campsite to another campsite 5-6 miles away, I could take maybe a couple of these, and as one was starting to burn out, just get another one going. Just keep it going, and then I can get to my campsite and light a fire without having to go through the whole process again. So it's a really useful fungus, Daldinia concentrica, King Alfred's cakes, cramples, call it what you like. A very handy fungus in a survival situation. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and I'll see you next time.